What is going on, everybody? It is the one and only Q here from Retro Q Gaming, and it's time to cut a promo from the SmackDown Hotel on everything we have going on in this video. So what are we talking about here? Well, we have a new announcement of something in development that is going to be highly anticipated and has a lot of optimism and sheer hope put around the entire game and everything about it. So what are we talking about anyway? Well, AEW have announced that they have officially a wrestling game. Not just, they have multiple games in development, but the key one we're going to talk about here is their main kind of entry-level, big-budget, high-profile wrestling game. Now, we have much to talk about in this, so let's just kind of start somewhere. Just to give you an idea real quick, I used to be a massive wrestling fan. In fact, I'm still technically, again, a wrestling fan. I used to watch lots of it in the late 80s. I used to watch it pretty much all through the 90s. However, it kind of went to shit in 2001 when the WWF bought out WCW. And, well, we know how that's gone for the last 20 years. Record lows, anyone? But when I found out last year in 2019 that a new company was trying to form up and start up, I figured, you know what, I had wanted to get back into it, and this is the perfect opportunity. I can get in on the ground floor, the start of storylines, the start of characters, didn't need to know any of this pre-existing stuff or histories or anything like that, and I started watching AEW. And to this day, I'm still watching it. So clearly they're doing something right. Now, of course, in the last 20 years or so, that means I've pretty much missed out on all wrestling games. In fact, the last wrestling games I can remember buying, depending on which one came first without looking it up off the top of my head, would have either been the pinnacle, the quality bar, the gold standard WWF No Mercy on the N64, or WWF Royal Rumble on the Dreamcast. Of course, there's a massive gulf in quality and variety in those games. But you get the idea. Sure, I played two of the SmackDown games that my friend had on the PS2 in the early 2000s, and he even had WWF Raw on the OG Xbox 180. And sure, they were fun to an extent, but they were always missing that special something, that quality that you could only get from the likes of WWF No Mercy, even WWF WrestleMania 2000, or hell, even WCW NWO Revenge, where that whole, let's call it trilogy, even started. And I'm sure many of you out there can agree with me that wrestling hasn't been great, at least when it comes to games, since in around that time and era. And that's where the new AEW game comes in. So last night, AEW announced that they are officially working on a couple of different games. Two of them are like mobile games and whatnot, but the real one we want to talk about is the proper big entry wrestling game. Now, there's not too much to talk about it so far, but we can go over what we do know about it. Currently, it's coming to current generation and next generation consoles. They haven't mentioned anything about PC, but, well, luckily I play everything, so I'll be able to get it on whatever platform suits me best. Although, since it's a game like this, I'm pretty much just going to resign myself to buy it on whatever platform one of the homeboys is going to buy it on, because we'll be playing it a lot together. I'll be picking my boy Pac, I'll be trying to get him into Brutalizer, and he'll be trying to pick me up and put me into One-Winged Fairy as he plays as Twinkletoes McFingerbang. But anyway, let's go back to the key details we have so far. Now, there's a little bit of an art style clash here because, well, from a visual standpoint, it kind of looks almost a little bit too cartoony. It's not to the degree of, that WWE Superstars game, but at the same time, it's not as, I hesitate to use the term normal and realistic looking as the mainline WWE games at the moment. And it's interesting that I mentioned both No Mercy as well as the more recent WWE games, because this one is going to be in development, and well, it already is in development, but this one is in development by Yuke's. And if you've played wrestling games in the last 20 years or so, you know that name. Yuke's are who made pretty much all the wrestling games, at least all the WWE ones, in the last 20 years. In fact, only giving it up for the, I think it was 2020 and 2021 games. And, well, we know how that's kind of gone downhill since then. In fact, the most recent one has kind of been legendary for how bad it was. So when you look at it, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Yuke's, at least from back in the day anyway, had a good pedigree. Like I said, I remember playing some of the early PS2 SmackDown games which were made by them, and they were pretty good, they were pretty fun. Sure, they're no mercy, but that is another one we're going to talk about now in a second. But on the flip side of it, you have some of their more recent games, which apparently haven't been great. But hopefully, that's where the next part comes in. And that next part is a very, very key, important thing when it comes to how this game is going to be developed. Now, I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce his name because it is very, very Japanese and I would massively butcher it. But the key important thing we have here is that AEW and Ukes are bringing in the game director from WWF No Mercy to oversee and direct the development of this game. This is a very, very important one. Basically, he is shaping the future of that game and how it is going to go. He's going to direct the staff, direct the coders, direct the developers, everything to get it too close to what he wants as a more modern version of that. More modern version of No Mercy. That is my optimistic side speaking. I do want to, unfortunately, look at the flip side of this because I have been burned by stuff like this before, where a legendary or famous game director comes back out of, let's call it retirement of 15, 20 years, whatever it is, to finally make a new game, a new entry. Well, we've all been burned by that before. Some of you got hit by Mega Man, some of you got hit by Kojima, and due to my own standards and principles, I can't officially list the one that's burned me the most. But hey, if you're a long-time fan, you know all about that one. But anyway, that's it for the moment. We will get more information going forward because this game probably won't be out until, at the earliest, the end of next year is my guess. I'm remaining hopeful and optimistic, and this will probably be the first wrestling game I buy in 20 years. Hopefully it's good, and that's the bottom line, because Retro Q said so.